Okay, well, we are going to dive in reverse again. We're so excited that you took time out today to join us for the path to spiritual well-being for your joy and others. And I am excited to introduce you to your panel of experts who are not only experts in their field, but they're expert, amazing humans that I'm so grateful to be connected to and to know. So let me dive in. Our first of the bunch is Mariah Edgington. You can wave, Mariah. And she is a retired BSN, RN, author, content creator, and mindset coach and guide. She's a contributor of Biz Catalyst 360 and Medium Digest. She's a co-author of the best-selling Journey Well, You Are More Than Enough book series. Mariah and her husband, Byron, collaborate as a speaking team. They are TEDx speakers, keynote speakers, and authors of the best-selling Journey Well, You're More Than Enough series. After retiring, they delve deeply into mindset and personal development, and now they speak on topics such as neurodiversity, mindset change, personal boundaries, reperceiving past errors, and the importance of words, positivity, and other insights. We're happy to have you here, Mariah. And then next, known as the queen of feeling fabulous, Rochel Marie Lawson is a successful business owner, registered nurse, Ayurvedic, I never say that right, Ayurvedic health practitioner, dream lifestyle transformation facilitator, and author. Rochel's a speaker and radio show hostess and founder and president of Blissful Living for You, which was founded to bring wellness, wisdom, and wealth into the lives of individuals seeking a holistic path to living the life of their dreams. Rochel has been named one of the top 50 women-owned businesses in Silicon Valley and the creator of the Brave, Bold, Unstoppable Women's Summit. Next, we have Kelli Swanson Jaecks. She's an MA RDH, is a self-care strategist, a nationally published author, professional speaker, and blogger. Kelli works with organizations who want achievable strategies to stay burnt out and optimize their team's total health. She also coaches others to put their own self-care first so they can fully live their lives and better serve the world. Kelli is the author of the bestseller Martinis and Menopause, Strategies, Science, and Sips that empower women to beat the hormone groan, and hosts a popular blog on women's health and wellness. Welcome, Kelli. And then last but not least, Robert Mack. Robert is an Ivy League educated positive psychology expert, celebrity happiness coach, published author, and television host and producer. His work has been endorsed by Oprah, Vanessa Williams, Lisa Nichols, and many others. Robert is very well placed to talk about love, having served as a celebrity love coach for Famously Single on the E! Network for 2 seasons. Robert is a familiar face in the media in the US, having been featured on television shows like Good Morning America and The Today Show, as well as in magazines like GQ, Cosmopolitan, and Well and Good. Great to have you here, Robert. Great to have everybody here. And now I'm going to stop yapping and I'm going to allow our experts here to talk all about the path to spiritual well-being. So I'm going to give Kelli the floor first.
Thank you, Sherry. Wow, Robert, I'm so impressed. I love all those things that you've done. Everyone on this panel, Mariah, Michelle, coming from the nursing world. I come from the dental world. That RDH means registered dental hygienist. So I do a lot of speaking in the oral health world, mostly to practitioners on how to up their self-care game and how to really love their life rather than being beat down by the everyday. So that's a little bit about me. I was really honored to be asked to come on this, the spiritual tips today, because my spiritual life is not something that I talk about too much. It's a pretty private for most people, but I have a very lively and alive spiritual practice within myself. And for you all who are listening to me speaking, I really believe in that I am part of the divine. And that is the foundation of my own spiritual well-being and my own spiritual practice. And for me, connecting with the divine within myself and outside of myself is something I try to do on the daily. And to do that as a self-care strategist, it's like, well, how do people find time? How do you really drop in and connect to the divine, whether you call it God or, the Buddha or essence or universe? It doesn't matter what you call it. It's that life force that lives within you. And for me, my spiritual happiness and my spiritual joy is very much connected to my physical body. Now, that doesn't mean I have a body that looks like, some model on a page. In fact, my body has been through many scars and war zones within my body, as I'm sure many of yours have. But those scars and the things that my body has brought me through is all part of my spirituality, because to me, being a spiritual person is being grounded in who you are, knowing who you are. And for me, that physical part of standing on the earth, feeling the floor beneath my feet, even as I'm standing here speaking with you, part of that groundedness is all part of my spiritual being. There's a quote by Jim Rohn, which I love, and it is, take care of your body, because where else are you going to live? And that is really how I feel about my body. My body's not perfect. I make mistakes with what I eat or what I drink or what I do with my time. But in general, I really try to honor my body. And to me, that is the foundation of that groundedness and my spirituality. And a tip for you is, I have trained myself when I get out of bed in the morning, when I'm half awake, I get up, and as my feet hit the floor, I say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As I'm shuffling off to the restroom. Thank you. Thank you. As I'm going into the other room to turn off my alarm, because I don't sleep with my phone in my bedroom. And that very easy, simple training, thank you, starts your whole day in the place of gratitude. And to me, the more I feel gratitude, the more I am in my spiritual zone and the more joy I feel. And I don't get to talk forever on this little panel, but this really came to play for me in 2020 when the world shut down. And I also was diagnosed with breast cancer, which necessitated a double mastectomy and 2 large surgeries during COVID. And it was my spiritual life that kept me alive, that kept me, if I wasn't happy, it kept me thinking of the positive, right? Going through that cancer journey was one of the scars and one of the things my body has done for me, right? Getting rid of that cancer, working with me is how I see it. So my body and my spirit is very much intertwined. And I will leave you just with one more tip before we pass on to our other incredible speakers. And that is, I set boundaries on my spiritual and inner self. What does that mean? Well, in my home, I do not watch the news, right? I get my news in little bits and pieces throughout the day, but I do not have the TV on watching the news. To me, that's really bad news, and it brings me down. I don't want to be around things that bring my spirit down. So that's one easy thing I do. I have boundaries on my time, how I spend my time. My gym time is sacrosanct. I put meetings, I schedule my life around my workout time. That's a boundary. And it comes into my spiritual well-being as much as my physical well-being. And with that, I'm going to stop and let someone else take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelli. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you to Debbie and Andrew and Sherry and all the people behind the scenes in this year of joy. Because we know that when we focus on things, what we focus on expands. And in that thought, we can create a new reality. And I admire what Kelli mentioned about letting go of the negativity that the news brings in. We all know that Everything in life is a choice. We make choices every day. You made the choice to invest your time in us today. And I want to be clear that it's a lot of gratitude I have for each and every one of you who've taken this path to the year of joy. Because we know that doing so has elevated yourself and those around you. When you look at the words that we choose each and every day, we speak about wasting time or spending time or doing things that we didn't want to do. And when we can stop and look at how we invest our time, because each moment of time is an investment. When we look at life as an investment and become grateful for what we have, looking at the abundance that's all around you. And wherever you live, if you can walk out into nature, you'll see an abundance of leaves or abundance of grass or abundance of trees. Bring your focus toward the positive. It changes your life. And today, as Kelli was talking about stepping out and being grateful for just getting up and feeling your feet and breathing. And I'm going to invite each and every one of you right now with me, take a breath and let it out. That's a gift. And that's a good part of a spirituality trait that you can make. Now, spirituality means different things to different people. And we all know that we all come from varied things in different backgrounds, different traumas that we've brought with us, different moments in time. But we can bring spirituality into our world through three simple things: gratitude, respect, and kindness. And we have those. Each one of us has the ability to take part in that. We can be grateful, as Kelli said, and everyone here has mentioned, for the little things. We can be respectful, first of ourselves, by making good choices on how we live and what we do and encounter and watch and allow in ourselves. And we can be kind. I often say that it takes no more effort to be mean as it does to be kind. And benefit of it to the whole world, first to yourself and then to others. It's amazing. Sometimes it even feels selfish because you get such a boost. If you have a random act of kindness that you do for a stranger, you feel good. And there is no downside to that. So I want to invite each and every one of you today to take an opportunity to do something for someone else. And in doing that, you're going to elevate yourself. Now, that's not to say that self-care should be put aside, because it is a very important part of everyday life. So the gratitude, the respect, and the kindness starts here. It starts within each of you. First with you, and then pass it on. Many people have said that when they see someone who is kind and generous, they feel such a warmth. They feel lighter. And there is a quote that I often say reflects that. And that is a Rumi quote where he says, "The beauty you see in me is a reflection of you." And by that, it's meant that each and every one of us have a very beautiful soul that's within us. And when we find that, build it up and pass it on, it builds a better community around you. And I want to thank everyone for being here and investing your time in this panel here today with us. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Rob.
Thank you so much, Mariah. That was so beautiful and eloquent. My gosh. So I'm Rob. I'm a happiness coach, but I wasn't always so happy. I grew up very depressed, and I was actually deeply suicidal for most of my life, at least 2 decades. And it's because of that suicidality and because of my depressed years that I'm here today at all. I'm going to share a little bit about that story and then maybe have a takeaway or two. So I promise it won't all be morbid. I'll land on a high note. But I grew up very in a beautiful family, loving family. And I grew up extraordinarily stressed out and anxious. I became so stressed and anxious and so depressed, despite doing well in school and in sports, that I decided I was going to kill myself. And I remember doing research on how I was going to go about doing that. I didn't really have access to a lot of the means and methods, and for that reason, I didn't also want to make a big deal of it. I just wanted to end my life. It was very strange to me that I had such a beautiful life and a wonderful life objectively, but on the inside, subjectively, I felt so much worse for it. I felt bad for it. So when I got to a place and I decided I was going to slit my wrist. So I went to the kitchen, I got a kitchen knife, and I dug into my wrist. And this is where the ultimate plot twist of my life happened. And it happened in a miraculous and magical way, without anything changing my external conditions or circumstances, without my life getting any better. I mean, I had graduated salutatorian of my high school class. I had a great corporate job. I had a beautiful girlfriend. I was very healthy. I had 2 beautiful German cars. Without any of that changing or getting better in any way, it was a great life already. I dug this knife into my wrist and all of a sudden went from feeling deeply depressed and extraordinarily suicidal to feeling the kind of ineffable, inexplicable peace, love, and joy that you can only imagine, that you don't even fathom when you're in this dark, deep, depressed place that I was. And in that moment, I was shocked. I was blown away. Like, how could I possibly experience this kind of peace, love, and joy out of the blue, out of thin air, right in the midst of ramming a knife into my wrist? And so at that time, I decided to postpone the suicide for like 5 or 10 minutes. It was such a short period of time, right? It was like, I didn't even think I could last that 5 or 10 minutes. It felt so ambitious. But I put that suicidal intention and effort aside, and I began to do a different kind of research. And I began to look up, what is depression and what is suicidal ideation? What is happiness? And I slowly but surely, day after day, year after year, now it's been 2 decades, made more and more progress towards what I just call as happiness. You might call it fulfillment, you might call it contentment. At the end of the day, it was just feeling better. And in that 20 years, I've learned a lot, but I've been quite surprised by how slowly I've learned it. And the major thing that I want to share with everybody today, maybe there's 2 things that hopefully will resonate with you, is that number one, for me, spirituality is about happiness. It's about feeling better. And if your spirituality doesn't ultimately and essentially and eventually help you to feel better, you might want to either check out different approaches or go deeper into your practice. Okay. It should not be something that is painful, that is stressing you out, something that you dread, something you should look forward to, that you can get excited about, that you enjoy. That's first and foremost. When you prioritize your happiness above everything and even everybody else, you will find yourself becoming more and more, quote unquote, spiritual. Okay. The second thing is that spirituality is not, although it includes what we think, it is not, although it includes what we do. Spirituality is beyond all of that. Spirituality is what we are, right? So you have thoughts, but you're not your thoughts. You have a mind, but you're not your mind. You have a body, but you're not your body. There is something that is aware of all of that you are. A lot of us, and we see this happening the world over, find ourselves in disagreements, fights, and worse than that, often war, about our beliefs, about our thoughts and opinions about things. I would argue and I would invite you to dive deeper into whatever religion or spirituality or spiritual tradition you follow, to find something that feels increasingly peaceful, loving, and joyful. And I promise you that if you do that, even if other people disagree with you on the outside, as you continue and keep that up, you'll find yourself becoming both more spiritual, which means more aware of your inherent, innate spiritual self, beingness, but you also find yourself becoming increasingly happier as a result of that. So that's all I wanted to share today. Thanks so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation. All right, Rochel, you're up.
Hey, well, I'm Rochel Marie Lawson, and I'm known as the Queen of Feeling Fabulous. However, I did not always feel fabulous. As extraordinary as I think I am. There was a time that for 17 years, I suffered from an undiagnosed medical condition. And every day I woke up in excruciating pain. I went to numerous doctors over that course of 17 years, and none of them could diagnose me with what I had, but were really quick to give me a prescription for something they didn't know what they were treating. And it all came to a culmination for me when I was in the middle of a chaotic night in the emergency department doing my ER trauma stuff and, handling a very critical patient. And I just had this wave of positive energy flow into me. So I went in the break room when I could break away from taking care of my patients. And I just sat there for a minute. And I've always been intuitive, a gift I say I've had since I was a very little girl, which helped me to be such a phenomenal registered nurse and business professional. And I got this download, and the download gave me 9 succinct steps on how I could heal myself by doing things that I had been doing over the course of this 17 years. You see, the 17 years started when I was 8 years old, and it ended when I was 25. And today I realized that they now have a diagnosis for what caused my 17-year struggle with my health and well-being. And it is called toxic stress. Lo and behold, though, after that download, 9 months later, without any medication, all holistic stuff, I was completely healed. It was like I had birthed this baby of pain to come into the essence of being able to really joyfully and spiritually, divinely appreciate my life. And so that, my friends, is how I became the queen of feeling fabulous, because there's nothing that comes across my life that puts me in a state of despair, because I've been through that very tumultuous journey with my health and well-being, mind, body, and physically. And what I realized was that there are some things that I had been doing, probably started at the age of 13. And some of the most powerful things that I've done is I utilize affirmations to get me through each of those days that I've suffered with that pain. And so I want to share a couple with you. I just finished writing a book. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's called The 365 Days of Affirmations for a Year of Bliss. It's published by Balboa Press and Hay House. It was just released a couple weeks ago. And I'm a true believer that within ourselves, we have so much power. It's avenues like this that allow us to understand that we're not the only ones that have had a struggle, and we're not the only ones that have overcome struggle, but our journey here together collectively allows others to have that hope, that peace within, knowing that they're not alone and they're not going through this by themselves. And to share with you what I had an undiagnosed ulcer that by the time I was 25 was a bleeding ulcer. And I knew what it was because I was a registered nurse. I knew what it was, but I was so adamant that I didn't want to take any medications to mask something and not cure it. So I'm going to share a couple affirmations with you and then tell you how I use affirmations on a daily basis. The first one I want to share is, today, I realize I've been wearing a mask all along. I realize that I am not the mask I'm wearing, but rather the individual behind the mask. I take off the mask of my personality and find that it was all an illusion. I realize that I'm not an actor and that I've been playing along all this time. Rather than being the actor, I'm the one controlling the actor within me. I look beyond the mask that everyone has on and find that they are all the same behind that mask. And in truth and in essence, we all can be connected divinely through joy. And so the other thing that I want to share with you is, as a tip, each day, my friends, is a beautiful gift to all of us. No matter how bad the day was before, when we wake up in the morning, it's a new beginning. And so what I would do and what I still do is, when I wake up, before I even step out of the bed to go to the bathroom, I open my eyes and I say, thank you, Divine, for giving me a new beginning. Because I have a new beginning, a new chance to make this the most luscious, yummy, joyful day. And I am in control because I am controlling that actor that's within me. And so if you do that just once, the first time you do it, you're going to feel a little tickle and a little sensation inside, and you may blow it off, but it's going to stick with you because you're going to keep coming back to that moment you opened your eyes and you realize that you got a new beginning. There's so many people that we've lost over these last few years due to COVID. And there's so many deaths and dying that I've experienced in my own professional career. But I know that if those people were around, they would appreciate the opportunity that someone shared with them, that each day they open their eyes, they have a new opportunity to make the day the best it can possibly be. They have a new beginning. And so before I end, of course, I've got to set with an affirmation. And the reason I think affirmations are powerful is because they give us a mindset to start things of how we want. But to take it even further, you say an affirmation, it's beautiful, but you need to create an intention that goes with that affirmation, because saying an affirmation is beautiful and it can be just a wish. But when you intend to make that affirmation a reality in your life for that day, it takes on a whole new game. And so what I want to leave with you is this affirmation. Within you lies an inexhaustible reservoir of abundance, prosperity, and positivity. Every day, in every way, this reservoir is deepening and expanding within you, and you just have to be open to allow that beautiful light to flow throughout your body and around your beautiful being. You are a magnet to prosperity, wealth, abundance, and positivity. You effortlessly attract these wonderful opportunities, and you will be driven towards the success that you desire in every direction. Every day, you're realizing that your potential for positivity, peace, prosperity, and physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being is growing exponentially. And you are willing to express that vulnerability of what's growing in you exponentially with everyone that you greet during your day. That is just all I have to say. I hope you take our words of wisdom and incorporate what we have to share with you into your lives so that you can spiritually tap into the divine within yourself and know that you are a divine being. It's not external of you, it's in you, and it's all around you. And, there was someone that told me that when you go out in the day, smile at a stranger, because you never know how your smile may have had the power to change their lives for the better. And that is all I have to share today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rochel. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Mariah. I could spend my whole life listening to you guys. I mean, it's just so uplifting. The energy that I feel in my body, when I listen to your words, but when I feel the passion and the power behind those words, I let that in, as Rochel talked about, that I'm open to receiving your messages. It's just amazing, that flow that you all create. So thank you for being the gifts that you are. And now we're going to have a little discussion session. So I'm going to try and be quiet, as some people know me. It's a bit difficult, but I will do my best to do that and let you guys talk a little bit around some of the topics we've talked about. And I think I'll start with thinking about our essence, maybe. Maybe we talk about inner children and how that relates to our spirituality. And I think Rochel talked a bit about the masks that we have, and we've been very good at growing up into adults with amazing masks, amazing shields, walls protecting who we are, and the ego against the inner child. So I think I'll turn to Rob first to talk about inner children and how that relates to spirituality. And then you can pass it off to whoever you like in the panel to carry on the conversation.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what everybody else has to say about this. Carl Jung said quite eloquently that he had never seen a permanent healing of anything without a restoration of faith. And when I think of faith, I think of children. I think of childlike faith. And childlike faith, to me, feels and sounds more like presence than it does belief. Belief's okay. It's great. And the lack of vision, belief in light can be very helpful. And the lack of experience of love, a belief in love can be very helpful. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't want to believe in music. I want to experience it. I don't want to believe in light. I want to experience it. I want to see it. I want to believe in love. I want to have an experience of it. And the experience of childlike faith, for me, is an experience of this thoughtless, wordless, faceless, formless, infinite, eternal beingness that exists within all of us all the time, that we're all aware of on some level, but can become increasingly aware of with intention. And so when I think of the inner child, I think of something that doesn't think that much, doesn't need to think that much, that lives most of its life, his or her life, its life, in the present moment, not in projections of the future, and not memories of the past, but in the only place that really exists, which is the present moment. And so for me, I could go in a different direction with the psychology, around inner child. But I'd say that if I'm talking about spirituality and I'm talking about children, I'm talking about an inner faith that exists within all of us that we can tap into more easily and effortlessly and enjoyably than we might have been accustomed to.
Brilliant. Who wants to build on that?
I'll go. So I'm going to tag. Thanks for passing me the baton, Robert. I'm going to tap into and carry on with a child like belief. When we look at children play, and I'm going to say before they start school, so 5 and under, you see them play, they're so happy. They don't think about negative things. They don't think about, the world being in chaos. They definitely don't watch the news, right? They're just out there playing and they're just so happy to play and they're laughing and joyful. And if they fall and they get it back up and, mommy might have to wipe their knee off or whatever, but they're running back out and playing because to them, the joy for them is in the moment that they're experiencing at that moment in time. And I'm a believer that the divine wants us to live our lives like these children. As we walk down our path to bliss, we should be enjoying every moment. And yes, every moment can't be joyful because there's times we need to learn lessons so that we don't repeat things or make the same mistakes or grow, evolve as we travel down our path to bliss. But remembering the joy-like feelings of love and happiness and not really having a care in the world when you're a child playing on the playground is how we should carry ourselves within us as we connect to the divine and travel down our beautiful path to bliss. And so I love just when he mentioned about the children, because immediately what came to my mind is kids playing on the playground. And I recently took a trip to, I think it was in the UK, can't remember now, but no, it was in Spain. And I saw a swing set like we used to have back in the day when I was growing up in the late 60s, 70s. You don't see those kind of toys. You don't see those kind of things on structures on the playground. And so I was like, I have got to get on this swing because I remember swinging as a kid on the swing and jumping off and uninhibited about whether I was going to get hurt. It was all about who could jump off the farthest and just having that joy. The funny thing is, you guys, when I'm swinging on the swing, I realize I'm not, young like I was. And as I started getting higher, I was like, this is a little scary. And then something said, settle into yourself and settle into that child. And so I did, and I enjoyed. And then I was bold enough to jump out that swing and take that leap of faith. And I actually landed on my feet. But it just told me that everything that we categorize in our brains is not necessarily reality. I categorize being fearful of jumping off that swing and forgot that it used to be one of the most joyful things I did. And so as we carry on through our life and as we go through the rest of this year, the holiday season, I just want everyone to remember what it was for you before you were the age of 5 and how you enjoyed playing outside and how you enjoyed doing the things that these kids don't do today. They don't play outside, but how you enjoyed that. And then if you ever drive by a playground and you see children playing, stop for a minute and just let that joyfulness of their beautiful smiles and laughter fill you. And you will definitely, if you've been disconnected from the divine, you will definitely reconnect. And that joy will become bursting up like that champagne cork that we all gonna probably pop on New Year's Eve. And that
Thanks,
is
Rochelle. That's amazing, amazing. Now, I'd add to that if you don't have with you now a photo of you when you were like 5 or 4 or 6, whatever age, go find one and keep that somewhere in your wallet or your purse, when you're driving in your car, behind the sun visor. And try and look at it, not maybe every day, but at least once a week to remind yourself of that child within you. Kelli, want to add to this?
Sure, yes. When you talk about the inner child and we talk about spirituality and joy, first thing that comes to my mind, excuse me, besides the joy that Robert and Rochel were talking on, is you have to love her or him, your inner child. And, all of our upbringing, we're different. We all have a very unique and individualized upbringing. And who we are today was shaped by that little boy or that little girl that is you. And so without getting into too much of the therapy, embrace her or him, love her. She survived. She is here and she is still part of us as adults. I think that having that attitude of gratefulness and accepting and honoring of your inner child and your inner self is a huge part of being grounded in your own spirituality and your own joy, because you can look back and things that perhaps you were not proud of, or you wish you had responded in different ways, or you wish you could have, depending on the situation. All that is we just need to give grace to our younger selves, grace to ourselves for doing the best we could at the time. So that's a little more, on the inner therapy working side of the inner child, but to also build on the play aspect, I think part of joy is allowing the joy. And that's what children do, right? Allowing what makes you feel joyful. Like for me, this whole holiday season, I love the lights. I love beautiful lights on houses and trees. And if I see the lights and I allow myself to be happy about it, don't block that joy. Or the laughing, right? Or I like rolling on the ground doing, happy baby yoga pose. It's silly. It's a silly pose and you look silly doing it. But if I allow Kelli, my inner child Kelli, to experience that, then I am having that joy in the moment. So those are just the two things I would say about the inner child. Love him or her and allow the joy.
Yeah, Mariah, add to that, please, if you can. A lot of good thoughts.
Well, thank you. And interestingly, Kelli, and Rob and Rochelle, it's beautiful how we're talking about the inner child, as Andrew suggested. And it's interesting when we stop and think about when we let that go. How often is it that we realize society has given us the negative things, that we look in the mirror? And I talk about judgment, and we judge that inner child as we're adults, and how often we're critical instead of kind. And I created an I am affirmation exercise, and I personally do it 3 or 4 times a day. I run through the alphabet in my mind with these opposites of what I was told. And so when I was told I was dumb, I put, I'm smart, I'm successful. And when I know that I am, whatever follows I am, follows me. And this is one thing that we can regain our child, that inner child, that small little one who played on the playground, who had so much fun and brought joy into their life all the time. Well, the way to get back to it is to do those affirmations like Rochel said. And it's the belief in them. It isn't just once in a while saying them. It's like brushing your teeth. You do it 2 times a day, right? Or they'll fall out. Same thing with this affirmation. And I'm going to tell a quick story here, Andrew. I created this I am affirmation. And one day I had someone write to me and say, oh, I wish I could give this to my mother-in-law. She's so depressed and she needs it. And I said, do it. You know, it's free. It's a download. Take it. She said, well, she doesn't speak our language. And it clicked. We live in a global community. So far, that's been translated into 15 languages. It's out there around the world, helping people every day because they're using this tool. It was so simple to create, and it's so simple to use. So I'm going to encourage everybody, look in the mirror and say positive affirmations to yourself. Replace those negative words that you learned over your teenage years, you know, and young adulthood. Get rid of those and start owning your true value.
That's wonderful. And may there be many, many more languages soon. It's such a great gift, Mariah. Thank you for preparing that. I think, you know, one of the words that I think I also, when I think about this as a child, I think about the word awe and the word awesome and how we've, you know, abused it in the language of just as a throwaway, right? It's awesome without giving it a thought, but it's such a powerful word when you actually think about it and when you think with an inner child of how they see a pine cone as something of awe, a squirrel eating a nut. You know, they could watch that for an hour and be in awe at that simple gift. So I think, you know, we'll encourage everybody to connect with nature and find the awesome gifts that nature gives us every day for free. That would be one thing. I'm going to change the topic slightly to talk about one more thing before we close. So, and that's about peace. And I think, Rob, you touched on this in your part. And I think in the world, we all talked about the world we're living in. We are bombarded by this negativity with this fear-mongering media, social media, and so on that can get us down. And so I think peace is a crucial part of spiritual well-being. And I was just going to ask each of you, you know, do you have any good tips, any good advice for how people can find more peace in this turbulent world? And who wants to start can start.
Don't watch the news. It's constantly negative. You know, I wish one day, you know, who knows, we might be the creators of this, to have a positive news channel that promotes peace and positivity and confidence and self-belief. But I would say don't watch the news.
I think that peace has to boil down to what and who do I control? And I only control myself. I only am in charge of me. I cannot change another person, how they think, or what the actions, the behavior they're going to take. So to me, when I think of peace globally is too big for my little brain and spirit and soul. So I bring it down to the personal. How do I have peace in my life? Besides the boundaries I create. But if there's people who rub me the wrong way, or people, you know, we all have people who don't necessarily get us or dig us or love us, or we're in a situation. I'm in a situation in my community where another person threw me under the bus for this thing in my community that happened. And that person just didn't understand everything that was going on in this board meeting I was in, for example. So what can I do for peace? I get to choose to be angry with her, to be spiteful and just mean and gossip about her, or I can choose, as what I try to do, is put her in my prayers and in my spiritual life of, I wish you well. I wish you peace. I forgive you. All those things that only I can do for me, but that brings peace to me. And in the situation, I'm not escalating conflict. And I think as individuals, that's where our peace can start.
Did you want to go, Mariah?
I'm going to build on what Rochel said, and also Kelli. Instead of the time that you spent, and I will say spent because it's not an investment in the news, instead of the time you spent watching the news, invest in yourself and write in a gratitude journal every day. And make sure you put, first of all, 10 things that you're grateful for that are in your life right now. And then switch it up a little bit and say, I'm so happy and grateful now that, and put your brain in a forward motion of what you want to see your world to be. And like Kelli said, it starts at home. And that's how you create peace, because people observe leaders, and you can become a leader yourself by becoming spiritually solid in your own peace that you create within you.
Oh, so good, Mariah. So good, Kelli and Rochel. I just want to reflect back the profound wisdom that was shared here, and I'll just put it in my own words because I don't know if I have much to add. The first thing I heard was, there's a quote, which I love, which is, the law of flotation was not discovered by the contemplation on the sinking of things. In other words, peace will not be discovered by thinking about everything that's going wrong in your life and the world. Happiness will not be discovered that way. Love will not be discovered that way. In order to be happy, you have to be happiness oriented. In order to be at peace, you have to be peace oriented, right? And so that's the first piece, is that, pardon the pun, the first piece is that in order to be or feel peaceful, you need to focus on peace. You can't focus on conflict, okay? The second piece of that, pardon the pun, is that peace, true peace, passeth understanding. And Kelli spoke to this so beautifully, as did Rochel and Mariah, in different ways. But the idea is, if you're seeking peace through understanding, you're unlikely to find it. And if you find it, it's unlikely to last for very long. Our brains and our minds are very wishy-washy. We change our minds every day, like we change our clothes, right? And because of that, it doesn't mean that we don't seek and set an intention to understand other people and have them understand us. But if your peace is dependent upon other people understanding you, you understanding other people, or you understanding the world, you're screwed. You won't have peace at all. And if you do, you won't have it for very long, right? So peace, true peace, passeth understanding. And that's why kids are better at it than adults. That's why all of nature is perfectly blissful and peaceful, despite experiencing the same problems and accidents and loss and misfortune and death as human beings do, right? Only people have made a problem out of their own existence. Only people have made their lives problematic. And it's because we overthink. So peace is simpler than you think it is, quite literally. And that's because it passeth understanding.
I think that's very powerful. It was, repeat that again about the floating thing, because that sort of passed by me a little bit. So Rob, go through that one more time.
The law of flotation wasn't discovered by contemplating the sinking of things. So in other words, if you study your problems, and we love therapy. I love therapy. Therapy's great. Okay. Also, and therapy can sometimes invite us to focus on problems in such a way that we become expert in problems, and therefore our problems don't shrink. They don't shrink. They grow. If you want to become an expert in solutions, you have to focus on solutions. If you want to be an expert in peace, you have to focus on peace. If you want to be an expert in happiness, you have to focus on happiness or love. But we can't, in this case, get east by going west. We can't get up by going down, right? We want to take the most direct path humanly possible to peace, love, and happiness. And that means by studying and consuming content, teachers that support us in feeling peace, love, and happiness, not the opposite, right? So the idea is you can be in the world, but not of the world. You can be in the storm, but not have the storm be in you, right? It's not a problem when the boat's in the water. The problem is when the water's in the boat, right? So that's the idea. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No, I get it now. I get it now. It's wonderful way of framing it. I like it very much. I also like the concept of focusing on or understanding first our sphere of influence. Because I think, as Kelli alluded to, that many of us spend a lot of time worrying about things that we actually have very little or even no control over. And a lot of the things that we are fearful and worried about haven't happened yet. So not only are we fearful in the moment, we're also spending a lot of time worrying and fearful of things that could happen, right? We could lose our job. This could happen. I could get ill. I could. And that's very consuming of our peace, I believe, and self-defeating. So the more we could focus on understanding where our sphere of influence lies and where are the boundaries around that, maybe that could be one path to helping us find that peace within us and letting everything else go, as our dear friends in Frozen would say.
I just want to say one thing, Andrew, because that was so profound. There's a quote that captures that beautifully, not more beautifully than the way you put it. I think that was just perfect. But the idea is when you fear to suffer, you suffer what you fear already. When you fear to suffer, you suffer what you fear already, right? So we don't need to pre-live and relive so many moments. We can just live this moment without pre-living the fear and the anxiety in advance. Because when we do that, we're already suffering whatever it is that we're fearful of. It's really
amazing. Well, thank you all. Thank you all so much. I see Debbie's joined us back. Debbie, we're going to hand over to you to wrap up this wonderful show, and Shari as well is coming on to share. She's been chatting away in the chat. I've been seeing that. I thought she was going to leave us, but she couldn't leave. She had to stay behind. Fantastic. So Shari and Debbie, wrap us up.
Well, just to finish up that thought, I always tell myself, as well as my children, my grandchildren, my family and friends, stop worrying on speculation, because it's a lot of energy used. And we are much better off, Robert, thank you so much, being solution oriented. I mean, sometimes I'm so solution oriented that could get in the way too. But with that said, I love this whole conversation on spirituality and loving ourselves. We are enough. Every single day we are enough, regardless what that day brings. So on this Thanksgiving week for us in the US, sorry, Andrew, I would like to end with, and I'll leave it to Shari to really close this out, but I would like to end with how grateful I am for the conversations we have throughout the whole year, and for these wonderful people on this panel, as well as others we've had, and all the members of our community who join us. I am so grateful because each and every one of you has helped me build more joy in my life. So thank you very much. Shari, I'll leave it to you to close us.
Okay, well, in the spirit of gratitude, I want to thank Andrew and Debbie for creating the Year of Joy community so all of us can be filled. And I want to thank you, panelists, for filling my spirit today. Really, I was sitting here all emotional back here. That's why I didn't leave. I couldn't go. But thank you for giving us all the reminder of the permission to experience and to feel joy and to be connected to ourselves, to all parts of ourselves, to love ourselves, to be one and at peace with ourselves, and to move forward in this world with pure intent and pure love. And so with that, I extend gratitude to you all and wishing you the most beautiful Thanksgiving